Weighing in at 9 pounds, 9.3 ounces, we've got volume 1. And weighing in at 9 pounds, 10.8 ounces, we've got volume 2. That's right, over 19 pounds of album, and it's all finished.
Last week on the Lazy Scrapbooker's Next Big Project, I attended the Crop and Connect Atlanta Advisor Retreat and I finished the album. And here's how I felt about that.
Hi, I'm Donna Guest, the Lazy Scrapbooker. Thank you so much for joining me on my next big project. We planned, we organized, and we created a beautiful pair of scrapbooks to celebrate my husband and son's 15-day road trip, and it was indeed a baseball blowout. Here they are. I have a video I did in the past that told you how much should go in an album, and the max weight was 8 pounds, suggested by Creative Memory. So are these albums overweight? Yeah, by almost 25%. Do I care? I do not, because I'm going to keep them in 2 albums. They are perfect just like they are. I mean, they each weigh less than Nathaniel when he was born. I wish I had been recording when I first asked Nathaniel what he thought of the album, because it was the most genuine, I love it, that I had heard. And when I got him to try to recreate that, just wasn't the same. So how do you like it?
I love it. It's so awesome.
But he loves the album, and so does Jeff, and I am so excited about it. They look fantastic, and true to myself as a lazy scrapbooker, the pages are so simple, except for the front page, that's not. But the pages are so simple. Your eyes are going to go to the photos almost every time, and that's what we want. And Jeff's journaling added such an important part to these albums because he tells the entire story. And 5 years from now, we may not remember it that well. Scrapbooks have the power to do that. They help us preserve our memories. It's as simple as that. So let's take a look. Here we go with the album Flip-Thru. After 20 weeks of working on this project and even more pre-planning, I am so excited to finally show you the finished product. So welcome to volume 1 of The Road Trip of a Lifetime. I chose the Hit the Road album covers. It was a perfect match for this. And on the inside cover, I hand wrote a short note to Jeff and Nathaniel saying, I am so happy you have this tradition together. And I just went for it because once you write on this inside cover, there is no going back. So I was very careful with my very best penmanship and to make no spelling errors or mistakes, which are very easy to do. So I was glad that that came off without a hitch. I've never had a problem writing on the inside of these covers. As many mistakes as I make, I never make one there. I shouldn't say that. I may have jinxed myself. The front page, I decided to go with no photos because there's a lot going on here, and I didn't have one single photo that was a standout. There's so many. They basically have one single photo that's a standout at every location. So I just went with the design of the beautiful Hit the Road papers here, using the Sunburst recipe template. It's a retired one. It's one of my favorites. And using this cute road border that I created with my decorative trimmer, also a retired product. I'll put the link to a video on how to do this in the description of this video. There's going to be a lot of links in the video description on how to do various pages. But I love this, and I did the title in ABCs, the collegiate white on this paper, another sheet of it, backed it in black, and then centered it. That way I didn't make any mistakes with centering. And we're off on day 1. I used a peekaboo pocket here to show all the journaling that I did because I made that decision on what to include on each day after I had started day 1. So I had to go back, and a peekaboo pocket allowed me to do that. But this is the consistent part right here, day 1, done in collegiate black. They're in Bulls Gap, Tennessee. And I love this slide reel border punch. Jeff is the master of finding roadside attractions, and this was the Archie Campbell Birthplace and Museum. If you ever watched Hee Haw, which I was forced to as a child growing up in the South in the 70s, it was always on. That is a person from that show, so that was pretty cool. They both enjoyed it, and they went to a train museum when they were there. Their next stop, Wytheville, Virginia, where they saw one of the most unusual roadside attractions ever, a giant pencil on an office supply building on Main Street. And this is a great scrap border right here. I've actually done a reel on my Facebook page recently on how to do this technique. And I've got an 8.5 by 11 pocket page inserted here. These go in with staples and they fit in a 12 by 12 album. They're just a little smaller, but that allowed me to keep the roster of the first game they attended. And here's game 1 at Salem Memorial Ballpark. I love that I was able to include all of this memorabilia here, and he brought home all the tickets to the games that had actual printed tickets. You don't see those very often anymore. The design on this page is again a 1-inch frame like I'm going to be doing on day 2, day 3, and so forth. Jeff gave me so much journaling. It was fantastic, and he had it all typed up in a Word document, as you probably saw, so I was able to edit it as needed, put it into complete sentences if it wasn't, and then justify it on the right and fit it exactly into the space where it needed to go, just using a ruler and Microsoft Word. And now it's day 2. At this point, I've got the consistent look of each day with the 1-inch border, and then I've got the journaling right here that tells me how many miles they drove, the cities they visited, the attractions they went to, the game they saw, and the final score of the game. So that is consistent for the rest of this album. I even included the little hotel card envelopes just to kind of show you where they stayed, although it's usually just the brand and not the actual hotel, of course. Next, we have a 12 by 12 pocket page so that I was able to include this really cool map brochure program, whatever you want to call it, from the U.S. Army Heritage and Education Center. And it does a good job of holding on. It's not taped in there, and I've got a little border over here, but it just seems to stay in place. And on the other side, I scrapbooked directly on the page. So I chose a sheet of paper where I liked this other side here to go in the background of the brochure, and then we've got a scrapbook page here. And look how much he journaled. If that was handwriting, it might take up half a page. He really did a great job of documenting their whole trip, and I think that's going to be much appreciated in years to come to remember all the details. And still at that same museum. These are really simple pages just with 2 borders on each page, and then I double punched, and that's just punching on 2 different colors and then making a shadow with the one behind it. That's the flag banner border punch. These stars are from a really old punch that we used to have with the old company, the old Creative Memories, but I kept that one, of course. That's a great star.
The baseball games are great. I love going to the baseball games, but I put so much time into finding roadside attractions on these trips that Nathaniel and I go on. This being a longer trip, we had some that were great surprises. There's been trips where they're not all winners, so it's good to find something that's really cool to see. One of my favorites was the Army Heritage Center in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. It was a great museum, and I'm glad we got to see it and we had a great time there. I like being able to look in the book and see everything we saw there again.
Here are 2 of the most simple pages. Look at this. It's a little border going all the way through. We've got photos up here that are landscape or 4 inches tall, and the 6-inch tall photos down here. So it really frames them nicely without having to mat photos. I was able to embellish here. And my favorite part of these pages, other than the pictures, are these dog tags that I made from the Platinum Shimmer cardstock and one of our tag punches we've had. That's pretty cute. There's 2 of them, and I used a foam square to give them some height. And now it's time for game 2, the Lancaster Stormers versus the Long Island Ducks. And again, I just love minor league baseball and all their crazy team names, all their mascots. It's so much fun. Now, Jeff wrote some things like, I thought I was going to do this for every game, memorable moments, and just some of his bullet points he wrote. I did not do that for every game because I don't think he continued on just like that, or maybe I forgot, I don't know. But these are super easy. Just a block layout over here, and look how many pictures I've got. There are 8 photos, lots of journaling, and memorabilia. I'm noticing some of these pages that I've done in various Facebook events that I do, like my Summer Scrapbook Challenge, Spring Scrapbook Challenge, Fast Page February, because I've been working on this album that long through almost 3 events. My Summer Scrapbook Sprint starts the day before this video is released. This is super easy, just doing these 45-degree angle cuts when they come up to the jeeping, and you can either let them hang off or cut it at a 45-degree angle over here, but 3 different strips there, 3 different types of paper. And now we're on to day 3. I really love this 1-inch frame. So easy to do. And I always did it with the same piece of paper. So whatever was on this side, I used the opposite side for the center. And with that Hit the Road, or in this case, the Passport to Adventure, most of Creative Memories designer papers, you've got a tonal side on one side and a very decorative side on the other. So I left the tonal side in the middle because that would look better against all the photos where this is so really busy here. And then they're in York, Pennsylvania. I think this is the Right On Journaling collection. These birds have nothing to do with this. I just liked the red. And Nathaniel, hey, Nathaniel is wearing a shirt that says Redbird. So there we go. It all ties together. I used to not mat my photos very often because it does take time, but the ladies that participate in my events on Facebook, you know, when I see their pages and their photos are matted, it just looks so good, especially when it's on top of busy paper like this. It needs to be matted to make it stand out. And this is the Mirrored Scallops Border Maker cartridge, which I think is on last chance. It may be sold out already, but that is a great one to have. It just works with all types of photos. Then they are on to the York County History Center Fire Museum. Really cool, very simple pages, just matted photos and matted journaling. Now here I've got a brochure pocket. It just attaches to the page protector. And you know, I thought about, oh, the video would be better if I didn't have page protectors on it because of the glare, but I'd already put them on and I just couldn't bear to take them off. So I'll move them around so you can see a little bit better. That helps. But this lets you pull the brochure out and then put it right back in, and it's protected and you can get it out easily without having to go under the page. So I love those. Those are called brochure pockets. More photos from that really cool museum. And of course, if you've watched my previous series, you know that Jeff is a retired fireman, and so he's always interested in stuff like this. And his travel partner is interested in anything. He'll go anywhere and have a great time. Then we get to the interestingly named Village of Intercourse in Pennsylvania. So a beautiful brochure and map right here. You've got to keep that. I used to cut up maps and put them in albums, which is really neat, but this one we wanted to keep, so a brochure pocket it is. And you can see that that is see-through there, so I could put more stuff behind it. I felt this one needed that big arrow right there. Here they are in Amish country having a great time eating some shoe fly pie, which I don't know what that is, but they said it's delicious. And then they stopped by just to take pictures, the Red Caboose Motel, which they would be staying in the following Friday, it says. See, if I don't know, I can just read the journaling. Journaling, it's so important. You got to have it or you're not going to remember what happened in 5 years. Then they are at Game 3, the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. And of course, there is candied bacon at the Iron Pigs game. All these baseball teams, the theming is so great. And then the food, of course, is going to match that. For the baseball games, I mostly just went with team colors. I think this is tonal paper from the Totally Tonal collections that we had, just the red and the blue, as those were the team colors. And then I pulled in some of the things from the Grand Slam baseball theme pack that we had, and I probably bought about 10 of those. Running out of the baseball paper, but I still have the stickers. And I used the tab punch on every peekaboo pocket so that you would see it's there, because they don't always stick out. They blend in so well, but you see a little tab and you know to lift up. And that's where I could put more journaling on this, and he's got a ton of journaling here. But super easy pages with just 2 strips here for our borders, and then I just scrapbooked directly on the album page. And I do that a lot. Since I use Creative Memories traditional album pages with the jeeping here, I will scrapbook directly on the page on many occasions. And then like over here, sometimes I'll wallpaper the page, and that's just putting one full sheet there. And this is actually a pocket page, which means we must have something on the other side, and we do. Look at this fun memorabilia. It was so much, it was too much to take up 1, 2, 3, 4 pages with. I didn't want to do that, but we can keep it all from that game right here, neatly tucked away. And we're on to day 4, and this is where I joined them for 3 days of the trip. I flew up to Boston and joined them there. They had never been to Boston. I had for business, but I was glad to join them there because Boston is such a beautiful city and so much history to see. So many things to do. We parked their truck for 3 days and didn't touch it again, basically. We took public transportation, the MTA, I think, but it was basically a subway system. And so on the day 4, I basically just included these random photos showing that since we took the public transportation the whole time. They managed to drive 242 miles. That was from their previous destination into Boston to pick me up at the airport. And then this, I remember doing these pages, and when Jeff saw it the first time, he said, "That's cool, that looks like wallpaper," which was exactly what I was going for, because we checked into a 100-year-old inn, the Longwood Inn. More pictures here. And this looks like it's wallpaper out of a 100-year-old inn, and that's exactly what I was going for, so I was glad that he saw that. And then I basically had built-in photo mats for some of these, so I did not have to mat these photos, only these 2 here. That was such a cool little place. The beds were so tiny, and we're not small people. This is just a photo of the security camera when we were at the check-in, and I was still standing there, but I could see these 2 wandering around like in a kitchen or somewhere, so I had to take a picture of the security television showing them somewhere in the building. Then, of course, anyone who's coming to Boston for the first time has to go to Cheers. Jeff and I grew up watching that show, of course, in the 80s and early 90s, so we had to go there. There's a peekaboo pocket. I've got lots of memorabilia, even a napkin from the table where everybody knows your name. I really should write a name in there, but I did not. So cute. I love these pages. And that little beer mug punch is just adorable. Then we spent the rest of the day walking around Boston and exploring the Freedom Trail. That would take us more than one day for sure. There's a lot to see. I like these pages. Like most of mine, it's super simple, just with 6 inches here, about 4 inches here, 2 inches here, and a little border on top. So very simple, but it frames those photos so nicely. Those must be 4.5-inch strips. Then this design again. I did that one a couple of times. And we're on to day 5. Miles driven, 0. So on this day, we did the Fenway Park tour, which was one of my favorite things about that trip. It was so interesting and so fun. There's Nathaniel and me waiting in line there. And here we are on the tour. This is the one picture, the only picture we've ever seen where Nathaniel has closed his eyes, because that kid can take a good picture. He's very photogenic. We captured him with his eyes closed there somehow. And out of, I think, 12 games that they saw on this trip, the one that I went to that night was the only game where the home team lost. But here we are still on the tour of Fenway Park. What a beautiful ballpark. The oldest in the country. It was built in 1912, like days before the Titanic set voyage. I mean, that just puts it into perspective there. Then I gotta say, I love this page right here. It's cute. I did my best at freehanding a green monster, just for the heck of it. I remember doing that at my retreat, just for fun. It amused me, and it's staying in the album. I love it. But the green monster, in reality, is that huge wall in left field that it is quite hard to hit a home run over. And we took lots of pictures on the tour, and a block layout is a great way here to show a lot of large photos. I've got 9 photos here showing. No journaling necessary on these pages. And this was the Square Link Chain Border Maker cartridge. And then we spent the next part of that day touring the city. We took the public transportation into the main part of the city there, and had a delicious lunch at the Boston Sail Loft. And you may have seen these pictures on my Facebook page recently, because I went back after completing these pages when we got the lobster punch, and I had to add lobsters because I'm eating lobster mac and cheese. I can't not have lobsters on the pages when there's a lobster punch right there in my house. So had to be done. I then took the red shimmer pen, which was a limited release, and dressed up those lobsters so they're a little shiny right now. Adorable. I had already added these little anchors here, so I think they make it perfect. And they add just a red pop, which matches Nathaniel's red shirt. He is usually wearing a red shirt. It's his favorite color. This one's my favorite. I plated him. Then we toured Little Italy. Look at those beautiful old buildings. It's just gorgeous. And then we saw the Paul Revere house, and of course the equestrian statue, and of course I have the horse punch, which of course had to be brought in for this. Then we toured the beautiful Old North Church. I didn't do a separate title because I have this photo right here. I'm still questioning, do I need a title down here, or up here? I'm okay right now without it. What a gorgeous building though. Beautiful church. And then we visited the Cops Hill Burying Ground. And let me tell you, Jeff had a long list, a page full of different attractions and sites to see in Boston. So we just kind of checked off the ones we wanted to do. We didn't go to every one because there were just too many. But we kind of split it up to what I wanted to see, what he wanted to see, what Nathaniel might want to see. And this is a very historical burying ground. And I added my little Victorian fence border punch to that, another retired item. Then later that day, we're off to the Red Sox game, and the stadium is just 1 mile from our inn that we were staying in, so we could walk to the game, which we love to do that. And Nathaniel is wearing a Red Sox jersey that he was given to by some great friends at his graduation party. They knew he was going to the game in Boston, so he had to wear that shirt with his favorite Red Sox player ever, David Ortiz. Isn't that everyone's favorite Red Sox player? What a fun area outside that stadium. And now we're finally inside the stadium, just where we were earlier in the day for the tour. Now we're here for our first game there. And you'll notice how simple these pages are. I'm forgetting to tell you about how I did the page because A, they're so simple, and B, when you're looking at a scrapbook, you really just get caught up in the story, and that's the whole purpose of it. But look, it's just a strip with a baseball and then some matted photos. Over here, I've got the brick and then a couple of strips here. That's it. So easy. Oh, there's some baseballs. That's it. This page is cool. I learned this technique at an advisor retreat. It's taking leftover mats from those variety mat packs. Those are the least used item in any Creative Memories collection, and then cutting them up to make interesting borders. So all of these came from leftover mats. So I really like that. There's so many things that you can do with that. And I love these. I incorporated the rub-on transfers from the Craft Happy collection, but this particular one definitely looks like stitching on a baseball. Over here, the reason there's some random yellow strip here is because it's the Pesky's pole page, and I'm telling the story here of the Pesky's pole with this plaque that Jeff took a photo of. I still don't remember what it's about. I'll have to go back and read that.
So my favorite part of the baseball blowout was definitely Fenway Park. We've been wanting to see that stadium for a while. We got to see a game there. Here's my all-time favorite Red Sox, David Ortiz. And this was part of the bobblehead collection. We also got to see former Brave Craig Kimbrell.
All right, now we're still touring the stadium over here. The game hasn't started yet. And this is interesting. It's a weird take on a block layout. I measured, and this is one piece of red paper. I do not recommend. Honestly, that was more trouble than it was worth. Yeah, it looks fine. But having to measure that just perfectly and cut all sides differently, that was kind of a pain. So, yeah, 2 out of 10, do not recommend. But the pictures are great, and they're the focus there. Now the game has started, and we are enjoying watching that. So the funny thing on this, I did this at my retreat, and I know I put this in one of the videos, but it's not the beer mug punch, but it's the border punch, whatever that was called. And I wanted to make the beer look like it had foam, so my team member, Vicky, suggested cotton balls. And I was like, what? And so she's like, yeah, try it. So I did. I put the adhesive pin, I used the adhesive pin to put a little bit of glue in there. And then I attached tiny little pieces of cotton ball. So you can see it's got a little bit of a foamy look there. How fun. It's cute. If I had to do it again, I would not do it directly on this white background. But once I put that down, it was done and I wasn't redoing it. So I'd rather have a darker background just for a better effect. Like if it was on this red, that white would stand out more. I love these pages for their simplicity, of course, but then also we have this 6x12 peekaboo pocket over here. And I know it's going off the screen. Let me slide that over. But notice this scorecard that I attached to the page has this blue line. I chose a cardstock that's very close, cut it the same width, and extended it all the way across the page. So I do like that a lot. Then I matted the photo in the same cardstock and included the peekaboo pocket tab, the tab punch there, with that same cardstock as well. So what easy pages, what simple pages, but again, the focus is on the photos, as it should be. And day 6, and this is the day I leave them, sadly, but there was still lots of time to have fun there. So we're checking out of our little inn here. Miles driven, they're going to drive 98 miles later that day to their next stop. And we got to stop at what is known as Braves Field. Before the Braves were in Atlanta, they were in Milwaukee. And before they were in Milwaukee, they were in Boston. So that was a very cool historical site for our family to see since we're big Atlanta Braves fans. And these were part of the original stands. It's now a football field for Boston University. Then while we were in Brookline, we headed to the JFK birthplace. Now the museum was closed that day, unfortunately, so we could not go inside, but we were able to snag a brochure, of course, which has so many interesting photos and stories in there. So that is in a brochure pocket right here, and we've got nice pictures over here. So on these pages, I don't have much here, like some circles here just to add a little bit, and then I've got the cyclic circle border maker cartridge there with about a 1/2 inch strip weaved through that. That is a little more work than I usually put into it, but it's cute. This is more my speed right here. So then we went to this granary burying ground. There's a lot of burying grounds up there, so much history. And so took the pictures there, title, journaling, very easy. Oh, and there's a peekaboo pocket. I almost didn't notice it. It's the tab punch. You gotta have the tab punch if you're going to use peekaboo pockets. It really makes them stand out. And then our final meal before I left was at Teddy's on the Hill near the Capitol area. Cool little place, so took some fun pictures there. And then we walked over to Boston Commons and some other sites here. These are just all random pictures basically. And then I am off soon back at the airport. And these guys are on their way to, I'm going to pronounce it right this time, Worcester. Is that right? Worcester? Okay, got it. And they stopped at the fire department there memorial, and there's a lot of history there. And then they took a quick selfie. There are a few pictures in the album of ballparks that they did not actually go to, but if they were near it, they were going to take a picture with it, of course. He said, they were having a game, so we couldn't get very close. I thought about going, but we needed to do some laundry. You got to do laundry when you're on a 15-day road trip. So they stopped for the night in Chicopee, Massachusetts. We've got cute photos here. And here is the laundry that he had to do. Some of these photos are from different days, but I just kind of grouped all these laundry photos together and just called it Life on the Road. And then I ran into his journaling later on, like on one of the last days. And so I came back here, moved this photo a little, measured, and squeezed that journaling in. Now, day 7, we're almost at the halfway point. So day 7, they start in Chicopee, they go to Springfield, Massachusetts, and then to Hartford, Connecticut. Here there was the Springfield Museum's campus, which included, I'm so jealous, I'm still jealous, the Dr. Seuss Museum and Sculpture Garden. Then they went to the Springfield History Museum and the Science Museum. I think they went to both. They're all part of that campus. He's such a good journaler, though. He documents everything. My admission was free with my military ID, and Nathaniel's admission was only $25 for all museums. That's a good deal. So with the Dr. Seuss museums, I got a little more whimsical. I never get to scrapbook with pink. Never get to use pink. So I made sure to use pink in here because it matches these truffula trees. It definitely does. And here, if you watch this episode, is where I used my Cricut. And I spent $5 on that font, and that's the only time I've used it. I think it was worth it. In the grand scheme of things, it looks really good. Oh, what fun and colorful pages. This is the Feeling Bright collection. I'm making ribbons with my decorative trimmer. It is just so whimsical, as it should be, because it's Dr. Seuss, who I like to say is my favorite author, still, to this day. He's brought me a lot of joy, and it was my favorite books to read to Nathaniel when he was little, too. This is the double Rick Rack Border Maker cartridge, and I have to brag, that hat for the Cat in the Hat, I made that by hand from scratch, just cutting cardstock with my Creative Memories micro tip scissors. So I was kind of pleased with that. It doesn't take much to make me happy. And here we are, the last page for the Dr. Seuss Museum. Look how beautiful these photos are again with the Feeling Bright collection. This is the Sculpture Garden. And I had one too many pictures, so I just fussy cut Nathaniel out and those sculptures and put foam squares behind it to give him a little shadow. Volume number 1. Now, on to volume 2. The latter half of the trip is in an identical Hit the Road 12x12 album, and the color is blue agate. Okay, I need to write something there, but I'll have to think about that first. Now we start here in the middle of day 7. Now I know earlier I said I could not end in the middle of the day, so I was going to have days 1 through 7 in one album and days 8 through 15 in the other album. But volume 1 was just way too big and volume 2 was much, much smaller. So Jeff and I talked about it and we decided we didn't care about where it ended. We just needed to have 2 equal sized albums, and I think that was a good decision. What was cool though is that I was able to end volume 1 at the end of the Dr. Seuss Museum, and then volume 2 starts at the next museum they attended. I was worried about that because usually I've got a 2-page spread going and I was going to have to break that up, but this just worked out perfectly, and each album has the exact same number of pages, 82 pages, 41 sheets. So here we are at the Springfield Science Museum, and I start off with another brochure pocket, which is this really cool map, A Place to Live. I'll put that back in there. But notice how the pocket is 12 inches, but because the brochure resides down here at the bottom, you can still see my title, which is underneath the pocket, but because it's clear, it doesn't matter. This is a super simple page. I think it might be an 11 by 11 sheet of paper I used and just gave a little border all the way around and then a sticker right here. So easy. Then they're on to the Springfield Armory, and I've got another brochure pocket right here for this brochure, and then again, everything behind it is showing up, including my title. I've got room for journaling over here, 2 photos, and that huge brochure. Over here on the right, what a super simple page. I've got one background sheet, this 6-inch sheet right here. Oh no, look what I did. Oh, you know, normally I would edit that out, but I'm just not going to. I'm not going to, because you know what this means? I'm like 3 pages in and I missed a staple. And if you've put together a Creative Memories album before, you know what this means. You know this means I have to take apart the whole thing, start from the back, and put that in. Well, I'll just have to do that after this flip through. But I finished this page off with 2 little pinstripes down here. That's super annoying to have to do that again. Then, I love these pages. They're so simple for the New England Air Museum. But what makes them fun is I use the Jet border maker cartridge, just little pieces of it here and there to add something to the page. And then I have these 2 little strips, and this was the Called to Serve paper pack. And again, we have another brochure pocket over here with 2 brochures inside. These things, I use them so much on this trip. I just love them. And this was a great way to get 6 photos on the page over here. Just kind of overlapping them there. It looks good, even though it's not attached. Oh, I love these pages here. And again, the Jet border maker cartridge. I don't use that one a lot, but I certainly did on this trip because they're at several aviation museums and really cool places they were going to. So here we have a peekaboo pocket. So I have all the journaling up here and another photo below. The peekaboo pockets, you know, I should probably count how many I used. It's an awful lot in this album because there was just so much journaling that I wanted to include, but I had all these pictures to include on the page. Mostly because when I was doing the power layout, I didn't really look at the journaling. I knew I had journaling, but I didn't look at how much. So then I would have to go back and fit them in. But this is a really fun page just with 2 pieces of paper cut in fourths, as you can see. I think I did this on a Tuesday tip one night on my Facebook page. I love this page. They were going to see what is my favorite team name of the whole trip, and that is the Hartford Yard Goats. So what do you need a Hartford Yard Goats page? But you need goat tracks, which I put here. And why this is funny is because they actually have painted goat tracks on the sidewalk in green leading up to the stadium, which I thought was adorable. Then underneath, you have more photos here. So I Googled, of course, what a goat track looked like because, you know, I did not know, and replicate it as best I can. I made one a template, and then I traced and cut by hand all of these little goat prints, and there are 10 of them, so that's 20 of these shapes I cut out. And this is easily scrapbooked on top of just the white plain traditional scrapbook page. Not a lot going on here because there doesn't need to be. It's all about these goat tracks. And of course the 2 cute tickets and the photos. I used images and the cover from the program, the game program they bought me, like this. So I've got those as well. But I love this page. Ooh, another fun one still at this game. And you can pretty much fussy cut anything. This is a donut in a wrapper right here. It was Duncan Park is the sponsor for that baseball park. So it was a donut chicken sandwich that Jeff was eating. And this is one of my favorite punches. It is the Garland Banner Border Punch. And so I do like to punch that twice and alternate colors, as you can see right there. This place, they really had the theming down pat. The ushers had goat herder on the back of their shirts, which I thought was adorable. Jeff and Nathaniel really loved this one. And of course, they've got so many photos with mascots. That was kind of one of their goals, is to get a photo, at least Nathaniel, with every mascot. And still at the Yard Goats game, this is the most hysterically placed. I put a little word here, best digital placement of these antlers up here. The Buck's Got Your Back is some ad. And they are conveniently located right over everyone's head. These little punches you see right here is our word bubble punch. Look how tiny it is. It punches one thing and you can put pretty much one word down there. I managed to put 3 right here by writing really small. But this is the Circle Banner Border Maker cartridge, I believe it's called. Again, the banner flag right there. And we finish up day 7 right here. I love this paper. And these 3 in this block layout are at the game. But this photo right here is that night when they checked into their room. So I wanted to include it just because it gives a good showing throughout the album of all the places they stayed. And to make it separate, because it's not part of this game, but it's on the same page, I just cut out kind of a complementing color here. It complements the stitching in the baseball nicely. I think it's our cool gray, I believe, cardstock from Creative Memories. And then I just put the photo here. So it makes it somewhat separate and not really part of this game, because it's not. Then we're on to day 8. We are at the halfway point now. And that does not look fun. Stuck in traffic. Jeff said there was a lot of that throughout the trip where they were stuck in traffic. So we don't just get that here in Metro Atlanta. On day 8, they started at Fishkill, New York, and then went to Scranton, Pennsylvania. Right after leaving their hotel, they got a selfie with another baseball park where they were not attending, but hey, they wanted to see as many as they could. So day 8, they stayed in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And if you've seen the show The Office, you know why that is important. That is our favorite show. We love it. We watch it all the time. And it is a fun place to go to see sites that are either seen in the show or mentioned in the show. So pretty cool. That town's really embraced it. And, you know, there's so much to do there that has to do with the show. Like this wonderful mural of Dwight. I love this license plate paper. That's from the Hit the Road paper pack. It is so busy though, you want to use it sparingly, which I did here just against this license plate stairway. This stairwell was going into a shop where this mural was, an antique store, I believe, and they just noticed out of nowhere a Cobb County, Georgia license plate, which is the exact county that we live in Georgia. So that was pretty cool. What are the chances? You know I love a block layout. So it works so well when you've got lots of pictures. Like I've got 5 pictures here, 4 pictures, and memorabilia here. So block layout is perfect when you have 5. You just have to fit them in, make it work, and add the papers where you can. And if you've never done a block layout, which that would shock me because I do them in almost every video or every album, and I will put a link to my tutorial video on how to do one in the description of this video. More sights to see, and they ate at Cooper's Seafood House, which is delicious. I've been there as well. And I used the Curious Crabs Border Maker Punch just to use the negatives, which are the adorable crabs, to punch out and add to the page. How cute. This was before I had the lobster punch, but I think the crabs work better here. That night they went to Game 6, which was the Scranton Rail Riders. And sadly though, this was the only rainout on the entire trip of 12 games. So Jeff and Nathaniel agreed, as he wrote right here, that a rainout on a 12-game trip is a lot easier to take than a rainout on a 3 or 4 game trip. So they really got lucky to have just one rainout. So they got as far as going into the stadium and taking a photo with the mascot, and maybe even eating something, I'm not sure, but they did not get to see any baseball, which was sad because Nathaniel's pointing to the lineup here of this one young man who is from our county and that Nathaniel has met before and was really looking forward to seeing him play. So with rainout, I had to use the striped umbrella punch, and then with Rail Riders, I used one of my favorites, which is the train track border punch. And that one is retired, but I used a technique that my sister Lori showed me that she did on hers using a ruler and a silver metallic pen. She just, against the ruler, colored these lines, these two lines right here that are normally black, to make it look like a very authentic railroad track. I love that. So you'll see I use that a lot in these albums. It was perfect here. And we end day 8. Oh my gosh, with this page, I just can't. These are the kind of photos they take and then they text me while they're away. I guess it's just boys being on the road. It's very funny, but I'm just not going to go into detail. Okay, now we're on to day 9. And I really took a lot of time with this one here because I wanted to incorporate this beautiful map of Pennsylvania that was in one of his books. And I made sure the paper from Passport to Adventure matched the map. Looks really good there. So I was able to put in the parts of Pennsylvania. And then I actually color coordinated the cities they went to with the stars on the map to show their location. So they went here, all the way down here, over here, and back. They drove all over Pennsylvania that day, at least the western end. But it was a total of 487 miles driven. They went to the Yuengling Brewery Company and to the Red Caboose that they were staying in and saw a game. So I was struggling with how to get the journaling here. So a peekaboo pocket to the rescue. I've got journaling here, here, and then I've got Jeff's notes under here that I thought were cute, so I kept those there. This was a highlight for the trip for Jeff, I feel certain. We had been to the Yuengling Brewery before, and it is the oldest brewery in America. We had done the tour in 2022, all 3 of us, but since they were so close, Jeff definitely wanted to go back. They didn't do the tour again, but they did go to the gift shop and maybe have a sample. But the highlight was that Jeff and Nathaniel got to meet Dick Yuengling, who is the owner and 4th generation of that company. Really cool guy, he said. Later, Jeff actually mailed an 8x10 of this in to Dick Yuengling and asked if he could sign it for him. And he actually got it back very quickly. So he is just a big fan, and this was a really cool moment. And of course, Jeff, as he does so well, wrote the whole story here. And of course, I made the tab from the tab punch out of some of the paper from that beer collection that I'm using for this. The perfect collection for this. And because the paper's so busy, I did matte photos there. And this one I matted, and I put it on foam squares to make it stand out. Then they're going to go and check in at the Red Caboose Motel where they're staying. And this is where they're staying in an actual caboose. And you can see it's a 2-bedroom. Pretty cool there. And so the only thing I did on this page, besides the title and all the journaling and this little memorabilia here. Oh, and this is not a brochure pocket. They only needed one side, so I just tape rendered that down. But all I did was this wonderful little train track going diagonally up like that. That's it. But there's memorabilia and 6 photos. And some of the memorabilia includes pressed pennies, so I included those as well. Now they're at game number 7, the Altoona Curve, playing the New Hampshire Fisher Cats. So much cool memorabilia that you can use from these games. Tickets, the programs, and then I've got all the fun pictures, and of course, lots of journaling. Check that out. Wow. Journaling and all this. This is a 5x7 peekaboo pocket. It is full. Again, if this were handwritten, this would be a full page or 2. So it is probably best that this one was typed, and it of course is printed on the archive safe paper. I'm not sure what that thing is right there, the mascot. It's the curve, so I just don't know. Okay, look how beautiful nighttime is at that ball game. They have fireworks, of course, which I used the fireworks punch and the firecracker punch. And then there was even a roller coaster outside the ballpark. I don't think it works anymore, but what a gorgeous backdrop. And I always put the picture here of the team walking off because they usually took one of those. And right here, this guy is Altoona, and he comes out and does a dance when they score a run. And then this is the square link border maker chain. It's just a good one that will work with any photos. Especially, it's kind of masculine, you know, there's no curves or cutesy things to it. It's just great for a guy's scrapbook. All right, day number 10, a trip to the capital city, Harrisburg, it says here. And so that's just memorabilia right there from one of those travel guides that Jeff gave me. And this day they drove 96 miles starting in Ronks, going to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And this is at the Red Caboose Motel. Of course, still, they had breakfast at the Casey Jones restaurant, which was in 2 refurbished dining cars. How fun was that? That breakfast looks so good. It makes me want bacon. And again, using the train track border punch. So simple, but it looks so good. And again, exactly the same. This is exactly the same. 2 sheets cut right here because I put the train track on the white because I think it has a bigger impact. So the same exact thing here. I cut a couple of inches off of these pages and put the train track down. And that is it. I didn't even mat these photos because I didn't really need it. And now we're at game number 8, Harrisburg Senators playing the Portland Sea Dogs. I don't know what a sea dog is, but that was the other mascot. I learned something here that many of the minor league teams have an alter ego that they use, such as the Harrisburg Mayflies. So tonight, they weren't the Senators, they were the Mayflies. Honestly, it's just a way to sell more jerseys and hats and things, I think. Again, these are really simple block layouts because that is what I go to when I have lots of photos, lots of journaling, and guys who don't care about all the cutesy stuff. Okay, this guy looks like he's got a Mayfield jersey on, but he's got a Senator type hat, so I think they're mixing it up a little bit. This is cute. They had these male dancers that were pretty fun, I think. And here we have more of those rub-on transfers from the Craft Happy. So perfect for a baseball page. Now, they don't all look like that. Some look more like stitching, but that's perfect. Looks like a baseball. Nathaniel back at the hotel. Look how many cards this kid is getting. He collects baseball cards and he loves team sets. He got, I think, like 22. He may correct me on that on this trip.
So, Dad, do you remember how many team sets I got total on the trip?
21?
Yes, 21.
And I think it was a free bobblehead night there as well. Day 11. All right, day 11. And here they left Ronks and they went through Strasburg, Avondale, Pennsylvania, and then on to Wilmington, Delaware. And they stopped in Dutch Haven and had, look at those yummy, fresh pretzels. This layout actually I did for a Savvy Scrapbooker video when we did Hit the Road, and they are 2 completely different pages, completely different. And the only thing connecting them is this road going right through there. And here we have another peekaboo pocket because I had so many photos. This right here is the road trip border punch, and it's supposed to have an SUV, and it does. But I took my micro tip scissors and made 3 little snips there on each of the SUVs and turned it into a truck. So easy. One thing I like on this, I love this little embellishment right here. Jeff had written down just some random thoughts about the trip and about this day, so I was able to squish them there with a small font size. I love that. More railroads. I love that, as you can tell. But this is when they stopped at the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania, which I kind of debated on, do I need a title right there because it says it here and here. But I felt the need to say it here again. And this layout is actually the first one in my summer scrapbook sprint. I love its simplicity, and I love that it allows you to have landscape photos up here and portrait photos down here. It frames them perfectly, and then you could have some kind of cool punch going through the middle here. And if they don't all fit, it doesn't matter. You can just put one here and tilt it. More pictures at the Railroad Museum. Pretty cool, pretty simple. And again, these are built-in photo mats here. Notice how I did not have to mat my photos. Didn't over here either. The only reason I matted this one, A, it's very cute of Nathaniel, but also it's a smaller photo. So by matting it, it made it the same size as this one, so they line up together, and that looks a lot nicer than having 2 different size photos. Same thing over here. This photo is a little smaller. It's the digital size, so matting it made it the full 6 inches there. Pretty clever. Love that. And then, of course, this is perfect for 4-inch wide photos. Basically, these are the opposites of each other, the same, but with the opposite paper. I love built-in photo mats. Oh, I love this page right here because of this paper. And this is not Creative Memories paper. It was from Hobby Lobby because we just don't have any baseball paper right now. But it was perfect for the Wilmington Blue Rocks because, hey, that's their team color right there. It's like this baseball paper was meant for them and meant for these pages. I snuck in a little circle back there behind the tickets just to kind of make them stand out a little bit more. And this block layout, I love it. I love it so much. Look how this fits in here. And I tell you, when you measure these with a ruler, then you put them into Word and format them, then you print them out and you cut them. And when you fit them in here, it is so satisfying. I just love doing that. So look how perfect all these things are for my 4 photos, then 5 photos over here because 5 is typically ideal for a block layout. And I've got 2 journalings, and this is all the paper I used here. I did do this one on our baby blue cardstock. You see that in the background because it matches this so well, and it matches those tickets and the team so well. How fun. This is Mr. Celery, by the way. I don't know what he has to do with the Wilmington Blue Rocks, but he's part of it. And his dance is called the Celebration. This is a pocket page, and on the other side, I've got all the cool stuff that they took away from that game. Now we're on to day 12. How fun. They only drove 34 miles this day. White Marsh and Baltimore, Maryland. And now they're at Camden Yards. This was another time they were going to go to a major league game. So most of their games were minor league because that's what the trip is all about. But this time they worked in 2 major league games. Obviously the Boston Red Sox, where I went with them, and now they're going to see the Baltimore Orioles. So for this day, they had time to hang around in Camden Yards around the stadium and take a look at so many things. This layout was another one I did for the Savvy Scrapbookers using the Legacy of Love collection. You can really use that collection for anything. I've got a separate video on how to do this one. And then they went to the Babe Ruth Museum. How cool is this? I definitely wanted to use this big baseball paper here and focus on that, but then pair it with this red cardstock. And you really had to put the red cardstock and map things for them to pop on this very busy paper. I love this right here, just the cardstock to frame those photos. And over here, we do have a brochure pocket attached to the page protector. And you can see these items right here are behind the brochure pocket, just on the cardstock. It fits in so perfectly there. The Babe Ruth Museum, that was a cool stop for them. A lot of history there, a lot of baseball history. Okay, and now it's time for the Baltimore Orioles game. This is game 10 on their trip. And they won, beating the Chicago White Sox 13-3. So this is kind of cool. This is what I call just really making your photos fit. I had this gorgeous baseball paper, which I don't have much left. It's the Creative Memories Grand Slam theme pack. And it's all gone, and I'm just kind of savoring this paper. But I worked in cardstock in the team colors there and framed these pictures here. Same thing over here, just with the frames going here, and black for photo mat. And this is the grass or grassland border punch right there. You've got a peekaboo pocket that goes out this way. This is a postcard that they got. And so it opens up and it still has the postcard there, but I used the postcard to include more journaling because Jeff had a lot of journaling. Now I see that I have more space down here, but I did not want to put more journaling down here because if I did, then you would see partial journaling down here, and I don't like the look of that. I want it to be really clean. Then you open it up and see all the journaling. This is funny. They got free shirts there, and the lady at the gate asked us, medium or extra large? I thought, can you not see us? Neither one of them are medium. Nobody in this house is a medium. Look at all these beautiful pictures from the Boston Orioles game. Wow, I've got 10 pictures on this 2-page spread thanks to some clever cropping and block layouts. And I continued with this pattern right here. Look how simple that is. That is so simple, but it looks great. The focus is definitely on the photos and the papers simply complement it. So if this scrapbook shows you anything, it's that it does not have to be complicated or overly crafty to look great and preserve your photos and your stories. Day 13. They drove 260 miles this day from White Marsh, Maryland to Washington, D.C., then Richmond, Virginia, and Emporia, Virginia. And this is the day they went to the Udvar Hazy Museum, which Jeff said was the best museum on the whole trip. It's part of the Smithsonian in D.C. So I've got a brochure pocket here with all the materials there. And I think this was just a big map that folds out. So I'll put that right back in there. And then this one had a lot of journaling, and I really had to work to fit that in. So you can see how the journaling is overlapping this right here. But I had so many pictures to get on, only so many pages. I just really crammed it in. But I wanted to make sure this journaling was with this particular photo here. So it all worked out. Then I love this title because Jeff had this in his journaling, An Accidentally Amazing Day. He had planned to originally go to this museum, but had scrapped the idea just because of time. So when they were able to attend something for this day the day before, they were able to fit this in, and they were really glad they did. This is part of the Smithsonian, and look at all these wonderful pictures they had. What I used here was an older paper pack called Planes. It was when we had 3 planes, automobiles, and trains. So I was able to use these, and it really makes a nice, very masculine background and just very appropriate background for this. I like these pages. I used that Jet Border Maker cartridge again, but because this little chevron pattern is going in one direction, I wanted the planes to go in the same direction. So I cut them and then just spaced them out like this. I kind of like that. Super simple page layout though. It's the background page with these strips. That's it. And then I've got actually 2 peekaboo pockets on this one page. This one tells the story of this Boeing B-29, the Enola Gay, and then this has Jeff's journaling on it. And I remember this picture when we were trying to do the power layout and weed some things out. He laughed how many pictures I had and said, "You've got a picture of Nathaniel with a trash can that looks like R2-D2. Well, how was I not going to print that? And here it is. It's behind the peekaboo pocket. I included it. And now they're on to game number 11, where they saw the Richmond Flying Squirrels. Another great mascot name. Look at how much journaling, and it just fits in there so perfectly. And the way I do that, I do have one episode in this series, if you missed it, called Journaling on My Computer. And I show, how I do this. It's basically just taking his Word document, taking my ruler, measuring how much space I have, and then going and formatting the Word document to meet that and using the full justification. So it looks really neat. Again, this is a nice block layout with just cardstock and a little bit of baseball paper. This is a fun picture. This is one that I did for my, I think, spring scrapbook sprint. And I love circles, and I challenged everyone to do this circle page. And so it was pushing some people outside their comfort zone, they told me, but they turned out really great. Their pages actually looked better than mine. So that's a lot of fun, though. Fun little page. I wanted to do more round shapes because, it's baseball. And on to day 14. They drove 242 miles. From Emporia, Virginia, through Fayetteville, and then Zebulon, North Carolina. So here they visited the highway marker that commemorates Babe Ruth's first professional home run while at the spring training with the Baltimore team. That's pretty cool. And here's another military museum, the Army Special Operations Museum. So again, a lot of the paper from Call to Serve. And again, I didn't do anything special. I just fit 9 photos and journaling on these 2 pages, and the title was too long to put on one page, so I just cut it and fit it that way. I like that. It connects the 2 pages together very nicely. Okay, then this next page says Fort Bragg Home. In 2003, Jeff was deployed for about 10 months and spent most of that time in Fort Bragg, and he actually lived in what was an old hotel that had been renovated into apartments. So he went to go by there and take some photos with it. And when I showed this page in a previous episode very recently and how I took it from 6 pictures down to 5, I said, as we were watching the episode together as a family, I said, oh, here's one. They're in front of a dumpster, though, so that's an easy decision to get rid of. He immediately turned to me and said, well, that was showing where my room was. So I felt kind of bad about culling that one, but oh well, it's out of there. And now, game 12, their last game of the trip, the Carolina Mudcats, which I think is Jeff's favorite team name, beating the Delmarva Shorebirds. And very simple pages again, but you can't deny that the focus is definitely on these fabulous photos and all this wonderful story that he wrote. I tend to focus, as I said before, on just team colors consistently all the way through. And I did this separate line here because, again, these are back at the hotel, and this is showing kind of a divide between the end of the game and then later that night. And then finally we have day 15, the last day. The trip was originally supposed to be only 14 days, but Jeff did add an extra day before they left and turned it into 15. I think when he first started, it was going to be like just over a week, and it just kept getting longer and longer. So that's what he termed it, a baseball blowout. And it was. They drove 431 miles this day from Durham, Randleman, and Charlotte, North Carolina, and then on the way home. This is the picture. This is the picture of them in front of the dumpster, in front of the apparently Jeff's room at that hotel where he lived for 10 months. And I fussy cut them out of it and said, oh, I'll use that somewhere. And I used it here. So there we go. And they stopped at the Richard Petty Museum. This is actually my layout that I did exclusively for the Memories Matter Alzheimer Association fundraiser. So if you're a member of that, you got the video and the PDF instructions on how to do that. And you probably can still get that if you want to. There were 15 designers and 15 layouts. And for a $35 donation, you got access to all of that. But I love this layout. It was, I called it a very masculine layout. I used the collection Revved Up, and it really did create some built-in mats, and then matting these photos to really make them stand out from the busier paper behind it. But I had not used Revved Up, the paper, and I really loved it. And then they also visited the Hendrix Museum. Jeff was a racing fan back in the 80s and a little bit in the 90s. Not so much anymore, but hey, this is a lot of great memories for him, so it was a fun place to visit. This paper, I believe, was the Rolling Good Times bundle, which is part of the Growing Up collection. I love this caution tape and this flag. Very, very busy. So what I did is I put a little black strip back here and here, 1/2-inch strips, that makes the photos stand out from this paper. But I like how that looks. And then here we are. We're almost done. Here they are having lunch on the way home. This border right here I did on a Tuesday tip, and it got so many views. The image is just, pretty eye-catching. But I did this with the road sign mini trio punches, which sold out really quickly. I do still have a few on my online store on my website, thelazyscrapbooker.com, of those available. They are so cute, but it makes the little arrow is just one of the 3 road signs. It gives you one of each arrow. And then he took a picture when they got home of his odometer showing the trip was exactly 3,330.6 miles. And then the very last page, I had the other board that I used. I was going to use them on the same page, but that was just too much. And so I decided to use this last page, add that. There's a picture of them with me when they got home. Wow, it was still daylight. That's impressive. And then Jeff holding his souvenir that he got at the Yingling factory. And then here's what I had them do. And this was just finished today. Nathaniel did his last night. But I gave them both a little journaling box. I said, just write one final thought about the trip. And they both did. And they're both so sweet. And they really ended this album very nicely. So that was a great finishing touch for both albums. When I first decided to do this series way back in July or August 2024, basically almost a year ago from when I'm filming this right now, I never dreamed it would take me 20 episodes to finish this. But I didn't have a hard deadline. Well, I ignored all my deadlines and just said, I'm going to finish it when I finish it. And that was a nice change of pace, I have to admit. So thanks for hanging with me for 20 weeks to see this project through. I am thrilled with the results, and I know they love them. I started my original series, The Lazy Scrapbooker Under Pressure, back in early 2024 with the one goal to help others learn my system for doing a big scrapbook project like this. So if it has helped you, I am so glad. And this next big project that I just completed, it was a little bit different because we started planning before the photos were even taken. So if you have a big scrapbook project that is just so daunting, get started. You can do it. Start with the outline. And make sure to follow me on my Facebook page, The Lazy Scrapbooker Donna Guest, because you may just find, coming soon, a class or two that will help you do this. It has indeed been a pleasure sharing this scrapbooking journey with you. Honestly, it would not have gotten done in 20 weeks without you guys watching this series because I had to do it. I had to come up with something each week, at least 2 or 3 pages. So on behalf of me, Jeff, Nathaniel, and my little sidekick, Nicholas. Where's Nicholas? Thanks so much for watching. And I hope you'll be around for my next series, whatever that may be. I can throw these away now.